They know stories about people that nobody else knows. They know things, and they do have to walk. We all should be walking a fine line,
Sure.
but you would think that they would be extra careful, right?
Yeah, there's one of the things I learned early in my career coming up through HR is there's two types of HR people, and then there's the strategic kind. So the two are one, very employee centric, very employee favored, and they often will favor outcomes for the employees. And it makes it hard to develop the synergy with the leadership team because they're not thinking about it like a business, they're thinking about it like an employee would.
Mhm.
The second kind is they're too leadership focused and then they lose sight of the employees. So they're too cutthroat, they're too focused on the bottom line. They're not considering all the elements that come with being human capital in an organization. And there's always this divide of perspective. So if somebody has some kind of disciplinary action or there's a strategic training program, they're usually thinking about it employee friendly or leadership friendly. The one that's truly a strategic partner is neutral and they can see both sides. They bring both sides to the table. They include the financial aspect, the operations aspect, and they make sound decisions from a neutral standpoint. And they don't have alliances. They are their own. They can stand on their own, but they give value to all the functions of the business, leadership, and employees alike.
And that was actually going to be my next question, or my buildup was when you mentioned strategic partnership within human resources.
Mhm.
That should really not be a department. That is probably a way of thinking,
Mhm.
as you just mentioned, to where it's like you have a strategic partnership within all these individuals and they each bring something to the table.
Mhm.
And that's where that strategic partnership would come into play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look back at many, many decades of how people work and the way they work, there's a reason that this function has gone through a very tough journey to get the seat at the
Mhm.
table. If you do a decade by decade look back, every decade there has been some kind of economic or global factor that has changed the way people work. Think about 9/11. People after 9/11, the gig economy was born. And so people started thinking about work differently, how they earned money, having a security nest with a second job was a big part of how people worked. All that to say, the transitioning that HR had to do from, think about it, early compliance, when women went to work, they were balancing diversity and inclusion. Then when tech started to come in and get, we started with email and we started with the computer system. How did they get all of their HR data into computer systems? So they were very administrative decade by decade. And it's only been recently that the thought leadership and the ability to see the organization in totality. So if you think about the HR function, they're the only other one other than the CEO that gets to see and touch and be a part of the entire organization. And so now it's starting to get leveraged more in that way, where they really are the right hand to the business and the finance team and the tech team and the people and the CEO.
Right.
And so I think having that shared perspective with the CEO or the founder or owner of a business puts them in a unique strategic position to converge with all the functions where that was never really the opportunity or the case before.